Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You are in the company of Najma Kota and my very special guest, Hassen Vally. And before we introduce him to the topic, let's just welcome him and Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you and your guests on this Mubarak day of Ramadan. May Allah Ta'ala share His peace and blessings not only on us, but from the Gaza to everywhere in the world, that there is always peace in the hearts of a Muslim. Ameen.
Ameen, Ameen. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you've put in a lot of effort into making this as informative as possible. And I do acknowledge the fact that the topic is vast, and yet you've managed to narrow it down so we can actually gain from what we're aiming to achieve through this program. Now, I just want to mention very quickly that you'll be answering the question on who the first general was that entered India in 710 CE. But since that time, there were a number of Muslim tribes or groups who controlled parts of India. And there's a whole long list. But because we moving from the Mu'azzi to the slave kings to the Khaljis to Taghlukids, Sayyids, Lodis, and Suris or Afghans, and finally the Mughals from 1526 to 1838. So when we speak about Islam spreading in India due to the tolerance of Muslim governors or rulers, we will delve into that a little more deeply with our guests. So let's first find out from Brother Hassan, who was the first Muslim general to enter India?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think it's very important because you started off with that question, because I think that that thread runs throughout the conversation we're going to have. And what is that? Then in Islam, there's these two stages of a man. He's a child and he's an adult. There's no teenage, where he runs around and all that. So here is a very important issue. It starts in the very early stage of Islam. The year we're talking about is 711. And a young boy by the name of Muhammad bin Qasim is called to the fore to take lead of an army and go into India and liberate the people. And he's only 17. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this is the best part of Islam. 17 years old? Come on. But in Islam, once the child became mature, the responsibilities went with it. And we will see throughout the discussion that we're having today. And I think there's a message for our young generation that responsibility comes in the moment we are baligh, we are matured. And
Mm-hmm.
here's the case. So Muhammad bin Qasim was a monument of discipline, of leadership, of able to work with people much older. I mean, there were leaders in his army, they were much older, more seasoned, and more disciplined. But Alhamdulillah, there was something in this, because this was the lesson from the Prophet ﷺ. That
Salam.
sometimes a young person was chosen over experienced leaders. And I mean, we find that in the history of Islam, where Rasulullah ﷺ chose Zayd bin Harith over the seasoned Khalifa Rashidin. Simple reason is that even the young can take leadership and give command to those elders. This is discipline in Islam. So there we got your answer is Muhammad bin Qasim. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you want to go into the
We,
next question?
yes, yes. Provide a brief introduction to the Mughal Empire, because we know that there was a lot, of weaknesses and divisions. And amidst the fragmentation came the rise of the Mughals, whose founder now I'll lead you into that. Of course, the founder was Babur in 1526.
All right. It's ironical you said Babur, because Babur also was very young when he took leadership. So let's look at India first, right? And I
Right,
think we're gonna answer a lot of questions here. India
certainly.
is very large, very big, and there were pockets and pockets of rajas and rajas, and they had their own leadership and they controlled. Then you had the Buddhists, the priests one side, and the gurus on the other side. So each one belonged to a Raja, right? And there was problems in the situation. Is that when Muhammad bin Qasim came into India, he didn't find opposition that one would expect. They found him and looked upon him as a liberator. And this was strange, but what was he there to liberate from? the priests were complaining to him that they were being oppressed by their own and they
Mm,
needed liberation. And yes, a
right.
young man comes in. And again, we go back to your preamble that although the thread doesn't run through the Islamic history because people are different, we must appreciate Islam again is a diversity of different people. So different mindsets, different people
Correct.
with their own comes in, and leadership takes a different tone. Not everybody was fortunate to be schooled under the tutorship of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and
Hmm.
the companions that afterwards. So here we have an issue. So Muhammad bin Qasim comes in. He's got this innocence in him, this purity of faith, and good support of those that came with him. And he liberates the people. And wherever he went, people accepted him. So there wasn't much fighting. And again, the principle is very simple. When the Muslims come in, they engage with competence. They don't engage with non-competence people who are not there. They won't interfere
Hmm.
with the women. They will not trouble the old. They will not trouble the religious people. They will not trouble the education. In other words, the whole structure stays. They will not burn the land of its vital food and riches that it needs or stop the water. So nothing of
Hmm.
the things that we are seeing today, how people are using the life blood of the people in order to subjugate people. This is not happening that time. So Islam had
Mm.
set a principle, and that goes. So here we have Islam now. Now Islam comes now from Sindh. I think there's a program that you have to. Sindh is Pakistan, right? So
Right.
Muslims settled up there, right? And little Pochbok, and the famous place was also, as you remember, is Afghanistan. And from Afghanistan, they came down into India. So Babur also came with his father, right? And when his father died, then this strong boy, his title was Babu the Tiger, right? A very strong heritage, right? Now, ironically, or maybe historically, whichever it is, Babur's from his mother's side is Tamur, the great Tamur the Iron, right? We called
Correct.
him. And his father's side was Genghis Khan. So look at that lineage now, how strong it is. So this is already
Also of
ingrained in
royal
the.
descendants. Yes.
Yes, they
Yes.
are very strong. So already he's grown up with that, right? The DNA is very strong there. Now he's born there and he comes from Uzbekistan, right? And he moves down there. His timeline, we're talking about now the beginning of a 331 years Mughal Empire taking upping now with Babur. That's the beginning now. He his lifestyle is very short, right? It's not very long, and he dies at the age of 47, right? And he's buried in Agra, right? But as he comes out from Kabul, which is the roof that time of India,
Mm.
right, from the mountains coming down, he brings now he enters into India with just 10,000 soldiers. And who does he confront? He even confronts the Mir Sultan Lodi, who's a Muslim, right? He's the ruler of Delhi, and he's got 100,000. So here's a 10 to 1 situation. But that never deters a Muslim. Now here's another point we have to contain this all the time in the hearts and minds of Muslims. Then in Islam, it was never a number game.
Hmm.
It was more on faith. When the soldiers joined, they knew the discipline. Theirs was not conquering and looting. Theirs was establishing the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and liberating people. Look, there's a very
Just
important
rule.
part.
Hmm.
Justice is important. Now, when
Mm.
you talk about liberating people, all Islam never forced anybody into religion. It's very important. Even in the Quran, there's an ayat that says, La taqrabu. Right? There's an ayat that says, where Allah Ta'ala says that do not approach anything, but also tells us in another verse that there is no compulsion in religion. So people have to make a choice. And you can't let a person make a choice in anything if he's under shackles. So people have been under shackles, and Islam liberated them from the shackles. When they were freed, now the choice was if they want to embrace Islam, it was at their own will. There was no forced conversion. Now,
Right.
let's just embrace this because it's very important what is coming. There are 500 million Muslims in the Indian subcontinent, right? This is census for 2017, right? Now, let's look at the constitution of it. Indo-Pak, we're going down at the bottom. Bangladesh, if you look at places like those, right, going into Malaysia, going into Indonesia, right, right down. No Muslim armies went there. There was no Muslim armies. So what happened? How did these people come into Islam? What was their reversion? Muslim traders, the message of Islam going in there. So these were the things. So there was never a sword to faith. Islam never used it. You proclaim or you take the sword. It never happened.
Right.
There may
So
have been isolated cases. All
yes,
right. So
we before you continue, let's go for a quick break. When we come back, we continue with what the establishment or what led to the establishment of the Mughal Empire.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
Join Africa Muslims Agency to make an impact that goes beyond the ordinary this Ramadan. When you donate towards a water well or borehole, your contribution goes beyond just providing water. It creates a ripple effect of opportunity, from ensuring food security to improving health, education, and income opportunities. Every drop you give brings hope and transforms lives. So this Ramadan, join us in giving the charity that goes beyond. Give water with Africa Muslims Agency.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
Abu Huraira narrated that he heard the Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, say, "In black seed there is a healing for every disease except death." This Ramadan, experience the health benefits of this ancient blessed seed by using the Tib Black Seed range. Black seed assists the body to boost immunity, regulate blood sugar levels, reduce inflammation, and act as a potent antioxidant. Experience a holistic approach to health by introducing the Tib Black Seed range into your Ramadan routine. Available in capsules, pure cold-pressed oil, and a vapor rub. Trust Tib Health Sciences for quality black seed products. For more information, visit blackseed.co.za. Available at leading pharmacies.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
We're back with our very special guest, and we're talking about the establishment of the Mughal Empire. Continue, because we see after Babur, it's Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and we don't have enough time to get through all of those. But of course, we'll feature as the yes,
Right.
yes. I
All
I
right.
think our
Yeah.
listeners are
Okay.
being quite comfortable with us. Yes, continue, Mr.
All right.
Vally.
All right. Now, very important now for us, right? So, if you're going to all these leaders, what is the benefit to the people of India? Very important. What are the benefits of this new people coming in there? What are they going to leave as a legacy? What is the heritage? Very simple. Let's take the young Babur. What is he as a person? He's a keen archer. He's a horseman. He's a swimmer. He's a scholar. He's a writer. But let's take more. He's a naturalist and he's a landscapist. So when he came into India, he sees that there's so much beauty, but the landscape is lacking. There's no waterfalls anywhere that he could put up. And he started creating fountains with gardens, and he brought that. And more than that, he was a scholar. So that's what happens now. So he brought in the style of calligraphy into India. So we get the Babur calligraphy, and the copy of the Quran was written in that, and he sent that first copy to Makkah. But for the people, he left a culture there where the people will start getting involved in education, and he brought knowledge together, and trade started increasing, because now India was like a bread basket. They could supply to the rest of the Muslim world in the spices of India and the Silk Road. So here was a beginning of that. He doesn't stay in power very long. So his son comes in, and his son's name is Naziruddin Muhammad Humayun. He's also at 23, takes the throne in Agra, and the Empress of Hindustan in 1559. That's what he decorated himself as the Emperor of Hindustan. His reign was an mixture. Now, there's another problem. There's also treachery from inside, from cousins and family and other Muslim leaders. There's also rebellion from the people. There's also opposition from other Hindu in India who they also want the reign of India. So now he has to combat with that, right? So in that little time, he's doing his best, and his life is very short. So unfortunately, while he was also enriching India with a lot of libraries and books, he falls down one of the staircase of a library, and he passes off at a very early age. And he has a son, and his son is Akbar, born in 1542. Right. Now, Akbar was only 13 years. Now, this is remarkable. How do you put a 13-year-old boy to be a crown of India?
We see this happening again, like you pointed out.
Yeah, here's another story. But Akbar is put under a court, right? So his guardian is Behram Khan. And Akbar then stays with Behram Khan till he was 17, and he says, now it's enough. He has his own mantle, he's keen, he knows what he's doing, and then he takes on leadership. And his reign is like his father, right? Full of intrigue, inter-family rivalry, and also we had other Muslim leaders coming in. But Akbar stood very tall, right? He was quick in responding to settling out any problems that was riots. He quelled it in that. And he also discovered Kashmir. So Kashmir came under his wing, and he loved Kashmir. And it was one of his favorite places that he used to go as a holiday, so you can understand how Kashmir has developed at the moment.
Yes.
Now, Akbar, at 63, in the year 1605, he dies, right? But in that process, he built his own mausoleum, right? And that mausoleum was not completed. So about 7 years later, his son then did. I will come back to Akbar and his thing, but I just want to go into the timeline. So after Akbar, we have his son, Jahangir. Jahangir, first thing he does, he completes the mausoleum for his father. And in 1630, this mausoleum is completed. And then he writes about his father. Now, I didn't talk about Akbar because it's historical from all different writers. And you remember, everybody has a narrative.
True.
So Akbar becomes a narrative in somebody else's story. And it's not telling him. So let's go to the son. And the son now writes the narrative of his father. He says, my father was not educated, right? He couldn't read nor write. And he says, but that was not a problem because history is full of jaundices and also accolades. And he says, from my own pen, my father was associated with learned scholars of India. So what he did, wherever there were scholars, he called them to his court. It didn't matter what faith they were, what calling they were, whether he was a Buddhist or a Hindu, whether he was a Jain worshipper, whether he brought some from Goa, there were the Portuguese people that he brought them. He brought Christians, he brought Jews, and he said, now assemble. And because he couldn't read and write, he said, now every day, one of you will read to me a book. Whether it took a week or so, but that book was read to him cover to cover. And very attentively he listened. He digested. And that is how he educated himself. This is a remarkable thing of leadership. And what then happens, he says that although the scholars didn't know, my father was also dyslexic, right? He couldn't speak well, like he couldn't read well, but they did not notice his illiteracy because he was so smart, quick at the rapport, understanding, giving response. And this was his greatest part because then he opened up. He loved art. India was great because they carved the big temples out of stone. So he used that stone and he used his love for architecture. Because he couldn't read and write, so what did he do? He then resorted to painting, artistry, sketching. And he started sketching models. And you know the famous Taj Mahal, which is not a mosque, but it's a legacy that is left for India. And India is still enjoying
Isn't
the
that
legacy.
under Shah Jahan?
Sorry, I jumped that one. I think he just
Yeah,
created it was actually Shah Jahan.
yeah,
So thank you
yeah.
so much. You will get confused in there. So anyway, with Akbar, so all that he did, he opened up also uh, great libraries and books and started to was a lot of translation. Akbar enjoyed his famous book was Kimia al-Sadat, which was written by Rumi. I mean, sorry, by Ghazali. It was one of Ghazali's last books. Kimia al-Sadat is a very little book. It's like a minuscule, but it has so much information there. And Akbar, I think, learned quite a bit from there. Akbar
So,
enjoyed
so
sorry.
right. So his success lies in his statesmanship and the ability to link the conquered regions into one solid political whole. And he was also very tolerant. He also, as an act of goodwill, he achieved a lot of goodwill through I beg your pardon, abolition of the jizya or the poll tax.
Yeah,
So,
right.
and he also established a tax bureaucracy.
Bureaucracy.
So let's
But
just look at
yeah.
that. Yeah.
But I think that also is also it's a controversial issue, but at least it's about his greatness. So beyond that, uh, remember he contributed to a lot to the art of India, right? Very important. That he
Okay.
contributed.
Yes.
So what happened is that he created a forum for artists where he provided them with brushes, with paint, which is very expensive because you have to make it yourself, and also the paper. And in the new conquered territory, he invited people from all over, letters, poets, writers, everybody to come. So India became now a hub for culture, and that was
Mm-hmm.
important. But in terms of spirituality, was a problem because there was a sheikh by the name of Abu Fazl, and Abu Fazl was very smart. He wanted influence in Akbar's court. I mean, in the court of. So to get into the court, what did he do? He then influenced the king. He said, "Listen, it's time that we create a system called the Deen Ilahi. We bring everybody under one faith,
Uh-huh.
Muslim, Hindu, all. We worship one God." And he was a complete diversion from away from Islam. And this was one of the problems that he had, where the jaundice came in and the accolades were taken away. But one doesn't discredit if he did the other contributions. Islam got into a latitude where there was a lot of tolerance there. People were existing, they were trading. And don't not to forget that Islam spread also by a lot of traders that came all along, all the time they were moving. They were coming from the Arab Peninsula, Dubai, and those areas right down the coast, and they went down into Malaysia. So they were taking, and this was good for the people of India because the traders were now knew that if there was raw material they could produce into finished products, and these merchants would take and bring back wealth. That is one
Mm-hmm.
of the nicest thing about it. Now, in that period, he has to go. So what happens now? Uh, we get now, Akbar is going away with this sad part. Then his second son, right, confronts
So,
him. Sorry,
so
okay.
right. No, no, no. So I just want to know: is that have we completed
No, no.
Akbar's journey? Are you
We,
going back
yeah,
to it?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, we spoke, but there is a lot about
Okay.
him, right?
Because there's
But
also,
yeah,
if I may mention, the Akbar Nama. It's a marvel of knowledge, wisdom, observation, and analysis. I think this is what you were alluding to in terms of,
that will come.
uh,
Yeah, that's I said. Yeah,
yeah.
but now
And
is
his,
because yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
yeah, carry on.
And his work also contained portraits of Akbar himself. The original is in the
True.
London Museum. So,
Now,
yeah, it's incredible. Hey?
no, it's not. I think what he said. I'm not worried about the portraits. Now, I mean, this is another research, right? Every great Mughal leader, right, and every great Islamic scholar, right, at the time from coming from even the Turks and all over, where is their wealth? Where is all their writings? If I tell you something, Imam Abu Hanifa wrote a thesis on maths. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
Imam Abu Hanifa. And that thesis in maths is in Paris, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All our great things. What happened in Iraq? The first things that they came in, the Americans did, they didn't, there was nothing there. They took containers and containers of knowledge, of books. Iraq was Baghdad. It was the wealth of Islamic knowledge. They took all those over. You find all these greats in London, museums, Paris, all over Europe. We find paintings, writing, books of great Islamic scholars. So there we go. The rape of knowledge. It's never told. Nobody, no history is going to record that because your history is written by those people, right? Who came in for the knowledge and taken it with, and now they claim as the owners of those knowledge. And this is the reality. And unfortunately, we have to speak about it. But anyway, it'll for another discussion for another time. So now we find that uh, after Akbar's time, it was a problem that his sons then disagreed, and then he was besieged, and his son Kumran comes in, and then we move to the next one, which is Shah Jahan. Now Shah Jahan
So
also,
can we elaborate a little more on Jahangir? Because he was obviously after Akbar, and then he carried on the practice of Akbar, which means that conquests outside and toleration within his domain. But the Dini Ilahi was dead and gone because of his weakness. So what can we say about Jahangir?
look, Jahangir was also like Akbar. They were all strong, right? But also between Jahangir, there was also problems that they had within themselves, right?
Hmm.
Jahangir also have problem between among the brothers and all these left to the. But one must also understand that Jahangir was also a great writer, great literate. He was very educated, right? And he
Hmm.
also went on to consolidate the little principalities that they had, right? India was big. You couldn't have conquered India, right? So,
Hmm.
as they said, in the lower south was also, not conquered during that time. So
Hmm.
Jahangir did his best, but again, a short period of time. And as I said, you want to get more out of it. So I think let's go into your next one, which is very important, Shah Jahan. And I'm just
Hmm.
going to touch on Shah Jahan also.
Certainly.
Yeah, after his father died, right? That is in 1627. His reign started from 1627 to 1658, and it was known as the Golden Age also. Because now Shah Jahan was, everybody knows him for the Taj Mahal, the Peacock Throne, and also you don't forget that his own son imprisoned him in the Agra fort, and also
Hmm.
the Red Fort that he built with the red stone. It's very remarkable. So Shah Jahan had his moment, but it was more a love labours lost type of situation, where engaged in love with his mother, with the son's mother so much that when she died, then he had to do this, and he created this marvel that
Right.
today world is looking at it. But it is not.
Right.
That is one thing. But thereafter, the stint comes back. Now we get now who comes in now is Aurangzeb, and he
So
was.
before you move to Aurangzeb, if I may also say that Shah Jahan was a true military leader. His first conquest was in Deccan, where there were five sultanates. So there again, when you speak about their military might, but the way they established the Islamic State wherever they moved in. And as you say, and I love how you say it, that they liberated wherever they went. So this is how their foothold and their footprint, if you like, increased
Yeah.
through these emperors as such.
Look,
And so the
see,
Mughal
yeah.
Empire becomes as rich as it was in its time, and we're looking at what led to the establishment that gives us that encouragement to know that it was done through the founders of the like Qasim and other generals that brought in this kind of culture into
But
India
yeah.
through these warriors, through these
I like your
leaders.
discussion, but I think there's more to it. Remember something that it's not only leadership, it's not only warriors. And this is the thing that we have. If you're a person that is inclined to war stories, then you only look at the leaders. But there's always the wazir that is there. There's always
Yes,
the
yes,
sultan's
they're
side.
guides.
Yeah,
Yes,
they
yes.
were the great people. Now, like for example,
The
at the time,
advisors, yes.
he
Mhm.
had this guy Abu Sal. He had other ideas. right? So he veered him off completely from the Islamic concept, right? And in other times, let's not forget that India was so rich that there was a whole train of Sufis that came thereafter, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Sufis came in and they started liberating people with the Deen al-Islam. And the Deen al-Islam with the Sufi coming in was so rich that the people were just reverting into Islam, not 10 or 20, but by the thousands. Because the influence of these people was so sincere and their message was so pertinent. Because they did not talk about something that was not there. They spoke about a one God, a universal God that sustains everybody. And the message of Islam is very important. And this we learn from Rasulullah and also from our Deen of Islam, that to be a good Muslim, you have to be a good human being.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very important. And the
Mm-hmm.
Muslims, their humanity, their insaniyat, far extended everything else. The Islam that they did, their practice was very private, very personal. They would never go about claiming what I did this or I did that. But they would see the humanity as they reacted with the people. And this is how they sanitized and brought people. They won the respect of the people because of their generosity, their culture, their equality in the way that they taught and the way that they implemented justice. Whether you're a Muslim doesn't mean that you are in the favors of the Amir. Justice prevailed. And there were
Mm-hmm.
always cases where the Amir went against the Muslim in favor of the non-Muslim because there was justice. So again, what we said, Sufi came to spread the deen from 1035, right? The influence of the Muslim refugees. Now, there's another thing we don't talk about because it's
Mm-hmm.
from which a lot of Muslim refugees came from all the Muslim countries into India. So what did
Uh-huh.
they bring? They brought a wealth of there were artisans, there were writers, there were educators, there were teachers, there were scientists, there were doctors. All these little bit pockets came in and they spread into Islam and they mixed. And remember something, they married. That's the beauty part. They married the local people, right? And they
Mm.
created a family there. And it is understandable that the wife will always fall to the side of the husband. And she was happy with the husband leaded himself, the humanity and everything else. And she embraced Islam. And the children embraced Islam. And this is how Islam propagated and proliferated in India. So
Right.
going by the sword was not, these are things we don't find, but it is there. It is so rich about the culture that Islam brought and went into India. Now, as I said, time is not my best friend here, but let me just cover Aurangzeb. He was reverse of his grandfather, right? Akbar's policies towards the people in India. So in
Mm.
1670, Muslims were converted by a guru called Guru Tika Bahadur, right? He
Mm-hmm.
forcefully converted Muslims, and the people came to complain to Aurangzeb. So
Mm.
he went there. He arrested him. There was a court, and he was then accused for blasphemy and also for what he did. And then, unfortunately, he was killed, and Muslims were liberated. But look what's happening now. This is 1617, right? Who
Mm-hmm.
do you think the people are now going into bed with? The British.
Mm-hmm.
The British are already having their eyes on India. They don't just want the raw material of India. They want India's diamonds. They want India's rubies. They want India's wealth. So already the British are preparing to invade India in this time of Aurangzeb. So in 1770, uh, we had a great jihad was declared in Marathas, and the British sent warships in 1690, but unfortunately they were defeated. And what Aurangzeb did, that he started banning lavish lifestyles. Those
Mm.
sultans that were there, he said, no, this is not Islamic. No brocades, no elaborate clothing, no gold, no music, no dancing girls. Everything that was not the lifestyle of the Khulafa Rashideen and the rightly guided Caliphs, Aurangzeb made sure that that was removed. And that was his
Mm-hmm.
contribution to Islam. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe from the other side, for a non-Muslim, it may be difficult because he loved his music, he loved his drinking, he loved his partying, and Muslims totally were against that. This
Right.
may have caught, and actually the narrative is different. They will call him
Mm-hmm.
an oppressor or a tyrant, but they wouldn't see the beauty because what happened? He brought Muslim to the natural fitra. And when he
Correct.
did, then he became accountable. I mean, a Muslim is accountable. He's not going to steal from the next person. He's not going to
Mhm.
abuse the coppers. He's not going to put his hand in a piggy bank. And that may have happened. And these
Mhm.
people were living lavishly. And the people were being ignored. But Aurangzeb made sure that the people come first. And this is where he
Right.
went, and it's Islam. So conversion by the sword and the theory that looked out, I said, please, we must not have the narrative. Look at it from the people. Large Muslim communities in southern India, again, I'm seeing Sri Lanka, Burma, Thailand, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Malaysia. Which Muslim army went there? No army.
Mm.
There
Mm.
was not a Muslim army there. They never conquered. But these people with different diversity found commonality in the
Correct.
unity of Islam. And I
So
think
it
that
was
is the
it
great
was
message.
can we say the golden days of tolerance?
Oh, more than that. I think
Mm.
I can conclude this and very aptly say it that wherever Muslims took over, now let's take the empires. You have Muslim Spain, we have the Abbasid and Umayyad Empire
Mhm.
in that side. We have the empire that is in Egypt, right? The
Mhm.
Fatimid Empire. We have now the Mongol Empire, and not
Mhm.
forgetting we also have an empire that stretches into Russia, right?
Mhm.
And also fringes in China, right? What did they do? They created a system where people could move freely and trade. So
Uh-huh.
nobody looked at you, what color you wore. These people enjoyed when they came into Arabia to dress that clothing, to enjoy the Arabian coffee, the cuisine, all that. They went to another place with a different type. But everybody was greeted with one word, one salam, one peace.
Mhm.
One sound they heard was the one azan, one congregation. And people actually flourished. The people in the local town said, but these are people coming. So what they did, they rented out their houses. So there was a first travel. They hired out their servants so they could look after these tourists. They gave them a cart and they gave them a horse to travel. And they even borrowed them money to do their trade. So on their way, they could pay them back. And you don't get this.
Right. So
What commercial that is like this? This is what the public wants because they were free from begging and want, where they could, prosper in their own
everyone prospered.
way.
And if one
Exactly,
looks at it as you describe it, it reminds us of the Ansar and the Muhajir, right? So,
exactly.
so right. So when we take continue with that legacy, then I'm going to leave it to you to say what can we draw from that.
Look, it's a sad state of affairs everywhere in the world, right? Because the Muslims were not after land and money and grab. They had a job, they had to deliver the message, right? When we talk about the Abrahamic faith, it is true in the heart of a Muslim because we respect the Abrahamic thought from Abraham, what he brought. So Judaism is close to us, and we respect what Isa bin Maryam, the Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, what he brought. And of course, if you accept the Abrahamic faith in today's time, you have to accept the Prophet ﷺ. So how can you accept the Abrahamic faith when you leave out the Prophet ﷺ? And you have the two and you say that's the Abrahamic faith. That's what's happening out there. So it doesn't make sense. They're playing a game with us, right?
Right.
And this is the thing. So Islam nowhere was there tyrants where they mass killed, where they scorched the earth, where there were bodies laying by the thousands. They preserved, they looked after. And the jizya is something we must understand. A
Okay,
jizya was
yeah, you'll have
it's
to
it's just
conclude very
yeah,
quickly. We're running
yeah,
out of
right.
time.
Jizya is something was a liberation. Remember, if if the Muslim gave them protection, it's like you hire a security guard, right? You pay him. So jizya was paying for the Muslim soldier that was looking after those people. The day the Muslim army left that place and they paid jizya, it returned the jizya back to the people. Now let's go into that more further. We
Very
can
quickly,
conclude
you
with that.
have under a minute to uh,
I say
conclude.
that please learn the Islamic history from an Islamic narrative, not from the narrative of the person who writes his own history for his own good.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's all I can say. And I think this time also that even us Muslims have to go back and learn our history from an Islamic perspective. Jazakallah.
Yes,
Assalamu
and like
alaikum.
we said, it's a very short, quick concise as information that we've put together. And I thank Mr. Hassen Vally so much for doing this. I know it's a difficult task. He tried to put in as much as possible so we could learn from our history. Jazakallah khair. We look forward to talking to you next week when we
Assalamu alaikum.
speak about, remember, we still have another episode for the Mughal Empire. So we didn't have to squeeze in the information today. So there's a lot more that we can cover, inshallah, next week. I hope everyone else will tune in to hear what it was that the Mughal Empire achieved, established, and left behind for us to use as an example. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
All right. When we come back, we speak to Khalid Vauda.